Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the 143 Under Review, coming at you live.
Back at you again, and we have an NFL special with the draft coming up. So this is
on Thursday.
Draft episode.
Draft starts, and it goes through Saturday, as it always does. Super exciting time in the NFL. A lot of young guys coming out of college getting ready to fulfill their lifelong dream of being an NFL player. Nick, how close are we to fulfilling that lifelong dream?
Not very.
But we're getting there. So that's the goal at some point. And for now, though, we're just going to keep giving you all these episodes. And we're going to start this one off with Stat of the Week brought to you by Andrews Logistics. This stat is about the NFL draft. As you can imagine, most of the NFL Hall of Famers, they come out of round one. So a lot of round one guys in the draft, that's where most of the Hall of Fame comes out of. But an interesting stat that I thought y'all should know is that the pick that the most Hall of Famers have come out of in round one is pick number 1 and pick number 4. We've got 7 Hall of Famers from both of those picks since 1977. So Thursday night, look out for number 1 and number 4. Could be future Hall of Famers.
That is a pretty interesting stat there.
It is.
And your player of the week is, yes, we're going to talk about it, Kyle Busch. Won at Talladega this weekend. That's a huge race out there in Alabama. You know, good old super speedway race. Gotta love it. And that gives him his second win of the season, putting him 4th in regular season points and 2nd in playoff points. So he is officially locked in for the playoffs.
Attaboy, Kyle.
Good for him.
All right, well, let's start this episode. The draft is Thursday, and obviously Thursday night is round 1, which is the most watched, most anticipated round of the draft, because that's where you see your big names from college football get drafted. This year we have somewhat of a some QBs that are people are debating on what's going to happen. I think the common consensus is that Bryce Young will go number 1 to the Carolina Panthers, who traded a lot for this number 1 pick. So
Indeed.
So if Bryce does go to the Panthers, he better be worth it. Nick, is Bryce Young the number 1 pick in the draft for you?
I'm going to say no. Because I don't think he's the best quarterback. And here's the other thing. Whoever ends up going to the Panthers, I'm sorry, but your career is over. Because, let's be honest, they're going nowhere. They have given away literally everything.
Their whole future.
Running back is gone. Entire receiving corps is essentially gone.
I think they just have Adam Thielen.
And, let's be honest, their defense is atrocious.
Terrible.
Their O-line is bad. So, on top of a quarterback, they need tons of other things.
Everything else.
Absolutely. In my opinion, I think Anthony Richardson is the best quarterback. And we've actually talked about this.
We have talked about this.
A month ago, maybe, on the podcast, but he's got everything you want in a QB. He's big, he's tall, he's fast, he has arm strength. So I think that he is better than Bryce Young.
So you've got 4 QBs that are kind of in the limelight right now. Bryce Young out of Alabama, C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State, Will Levis out of Kentucky, and Anthony Richardson out of Florida. And those are the guys that are going in the first round pretty much. Those are the top 4 QBs in this draft. And I agree with Nick. I think Anthony Richardson is the number 1 quarterback out of this class. Bryce Young played at Alabama, okay? And so did C.J. Stroud, played at Ohio State. These are 2 universities that are known for just being stacked offensively. I mean, like, the best wide receiver in the draft, in my opinion, is coming out of Ohio State. And like, he's throwing a Marvin Harrison, Ohio State. That was C.J. Stroud. So C.J. Stroud surrounded by weapons. Bryce
Young,
Young,
both just in phenomenal situations in college, surrounded by the greatest athletes in the nation of their age group.
Because obviously Alabama and Ohio State are 2 of the biggest powerhouses.
I mean, absolutely.
They get all the recruits.
They get all the talent, especially at the wide receiver position if you're Ohio State. So I think that they might be brought up by those around them rather than it's just their flat-out talent that makes their team good.
So, and Will Levis played at Kentucky, and I don't know what the hype with Will Levis was because I didn't see.
I mean, they're trying to do the same thing. Well, they're doing the same thing they did with Zach Wilson. That's the
he had a good pro day.
He had a phenomenal pro day, and Yeah, he looked great on his pro day, but there's no pressure. You're not having to worry about defensive linemen in
Just
your
throwing.
face. You're not having to worry about safeties or corners or anything like that. That's just you showing off your arm strength. And they did the same thing with Zach Wilson. And so he was super hyped up before the draft. And where is he now? He's going to be sitting the bench this
Somewhere.
next season, as a matter of fact, because
Where?
Aaron Rodgers is taking his spot as QB1 over in
Aaron Rodgers. That
over in New York.
happened yesterday. Got traded to the Jets, which obviously that wasn't a surprise for anyone. But
It was a
did
long
happen.
time
It's
coming,
official
but
now.
Aaron likes to string these things out.
He does.
Likes to keep the attention on himself.
But I think ever since Patrick Mahomes got drafted, every draft after that is finding the next Patrick Mahomes. Now, I don't think Anthony Richardson is Patrick Mahomes, but I will say this. He resembles Patrick in the way that he's built like a QB and he's got the raw talent of a QB. He just needs to be honed into that playmaking capability, but he has everything that Patrick had coming out of college. So Patrick Mahomes at Tech was not great. He just had a lot of talent.
Lots of raw talent, but he was just kind
He
of...
needed to be coached.
Everyone knew that the arm strength was there, and it was just... He kind of needed to be molded a little bit, and so he got into a really good situation with Andy Reid, who is a great coach.
That's pretty much the dream situation.
Kind of molded him into the guy that he is today, helped him along, and then obviously Patrick's talent and resiliency just carried him the rest of the way, and now he's one of the greatest ever.
And Anthony Richardson, he's got that playmaking ability we've seen at Florida where there's been moments, like flashy moments that you've seen. Like, he can be a great NFL QB. He just needs to be put in the right situation. I've seen a lot of mock drafts having him going to the Colts, possibly. And I like that. I like that fit because the Colts have a good O-line. They have good receivers right now. That's what he needs. Like, Bryce Young is a great QB, but Bryce Young's about to go to a place where they really don't have anything, like we said, in Carolina. Bryce Young's probably going to get sacked a lot.
See, what stinks about these 4 quarterbacks in particular is they're probably going to all get taken at least top 10.
Probably.
Maybe. And it's just a matter of what the order is in which they go. So some of them are going to get put in tough situations. Like, I fully anticipate someone going to the Panthers and someone for sure going to the Texans and then obviously the Colts.
But I'd rather be on the Texans right now than the Panthers.
But,
it's just like the Panthers
but also
are
the
not great.
Texans, that's not a very good situation either,
No,
in
it's
my
not.
opinion, because they're kind of similar to the Panthers where they don't have a great defense and they're on the market for a head coach as of right now.
No, they got a head coach.
Or yeah, they got a new head coach,
But it's a
so
new
you don't really
system.
know what you're getting yourself into.
Neither does the head coach, so it's just... It'll be interesting to
If
see what
I were
happens.
any of the I'd rather be on the Colts. I think that's probably
That's one of your
of the
best
guys
top
that
pick
have or
scenarios.
the teams that have a top pick. I think that's probably the best one out there.
I agree. The Colts are also have a dicey head coach situation, but their offense in terms of weapons and offensive linemen, it's pretty stacked. I mean, that's the best you could hope for in a top 10 team that's drafting.
I mean, they've been solid in the skilled positions.
yeah.
It's just they've had some questionable, I would say, moves for quarterbacks. Like, they had Matt Ryan last year, then they had Carson Wentz, and they had Phillip Rivers, and they were trying to do the whole thing of getting veteran QBs for a year, and it really did not work out for them. So I think that they have a bright future if they draft a quarterback in this upcoming draft here on Thursday because they have solid receivers, and obviously
Yes.
I think Jonathan Taylor's pretty good. And so if they get a quarterback that fits correctly, I think they could be successful in the future.
Yeah, so I agree. I think Anthony Richardson to the Colts would be a good move. I think right now it's looking like Bryce Young would go to the Panthers, C.J. Stroud would go to the Texans, and I'm not sure where it's looking like Will Levis is going. I think he's been bounced around a lot of mock drafts. So, but if Anthony Richardson could get snagged by the Colts, I think even if he doesn't, out of this draft, I think he will be the best QB out of this draft. And I think Nick agrees. So look out for Anthony Richardson this season and just throughout the years. But yeah, that's who we like from the quarterbacks.
Absolutely, yes.
I will say something cool about draft day. A lot of trades happen like that night. during the draft. Picks
There's
are
a lot
being
of
traded.
shuffling around. Like the huge deal last year was when A.J. Brown got traded from the Titans to the Eagles, and the Titans used that pick to get his name
Malik
is
Willis.
Yes, you're right, Malik Willis,
And it looks like the Eagles definitely won that trade.
he literally did. When I say nothing, I mean absolutely nothing last year. He came in a couple
looked
games last season,
terrible.
and he was horrible. I want to say he didn't even accumulate over 100 passing yards in any of the games that he played, but he was just terrible.
He just ran. That's all he did.
Yes.
It was like he was just terrified.
So, like Joseph said, yes, the Eagles won that trade because they got their true wide receiver one in A.J. Brown. So be looking out for something similar to that this
some
Thursday
guys
night.
that are, it's looking like could get traded draft night. DeAndre Hopkins, and I saw Dalvin Cook could possibly get traded, along with a few others. But obviously, if DeAndre Hopkins gets traded draft night, that will probably be the biggest trade of draft night because he's such a big name. But I will say, I mean, we've talked about this on Prove Me Wrong. Like DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think is.
He's not what he used to be.
Yeah, he's not.
And
what
maybe
used
he
to be.
needs to be put in a better situation because obviously, yeah, he was injured. So that is what knocked his stock down a lot in our eyes. But also, the Cardinals were not in the best situation last year. Kyler Murray was kind of up and down, and it was really a question of whether he was truly there mentally or not, and also coaching-wise. So maybe if, I don't know, DeAndre Hopkins can go somewhere else, he might be more successful.
I agree, but he's definitely not going to be that. What he
I
once
also,
was.
DeAndre Hopkins has been so good for so long that like I like seeing him be successful.
Yes.
He's one of
I
those
hope he
guys
goes to a
that
good
I enjoy
situation.
watching. So I just hope that he can be good. once
Dalvin Cook
again.
is. He's just running backs. They get washed pretty quick, and I think he's at that point. So that won't be a huge thing. Derrick Henry is a free agent, so he's not going to get traded, but he's still looking for somewhere to sign. And A.J. Brown wants him on the Eagles. That's just a side note. Please don't do that.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean,
Do the Eagles have money for that?
I
is
don't
the
think
question.
the Eagles. I was gonna say I don't really think they can afford that. And also, well, yeah, okay. Obviously, I just am really, really hoping that does not happen
Yes.
because that is not good for the Cowboys at all. Because our run defense is
is very bad.
atrocious.
Which is probably why Philly's probably looking at it, just because
Yes.
we are the only other competitor in that division. I will say that I saw something interesting before we end the show.
Okay.
And I sent it to you. I'm not sure if you saw it. Kyler Murray could possibly be playing
Be in Oakland A. I did see that.
both sports next year in 2024.
Which
I'm not sure how that's working, but I
I
saw
don't
that.
either because obviously, like we said, there's been a question on whether he's really all mentally there for Arizona.
So
right?
basically, he
Because
wants to play for the A's and he wants to play for the Cardinals.
problem was it was last off season.
Yes, when he signed the contract.
And he essentially, I'm just watering it down, said that he doesn't watch film and doesn't really care to watch film.
Yep.
So I don't really know how that's going to work now since he will be, I'd say, he's focused on another sport.
I don't think the Cardinals are going to be okay with him playing baseball because that's he's already injury prone enough as it is, just playing football. Playing baseball is, he might not even be there for the start of the season now. And I think he has not proven enough in football to be able to go play another sport right now.
No, absolutely not. I don't think so either. I mean,
He's already shown he does not put enough focus
his job
on
is not
football.
secure, if you ask me, as the Cardinals quarterback. So, in my mind,
yeah.
he needs to put all of his focus and willpower in getting better as a football player.
Look, playing baseball and football is cool. Deion Sanders did it, but he's not Deion Sanders. I think he needs to
Absolutely.
focus on one sport because he has not even proven himself in one.
I mean, you have, like Joseph said, you have Deion Sanders and then also Bo Jackson. But those
yeah.
were guys that were insanely successful in both aspects.
They had already proven themselves in at least one sport.
Yes,
before they did
absolutely.
that.
Like, their game did not take a step back in either of those categories, especially football, because that was their main sport when they became pro athletes. But I do not see Kyler Murray being on that same level. Not
do
even
I.
close. I mean, he's just not on the same level as Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson, if you ask me.
Agreed. But back to the draft before we close out. We just talked about QBs because that is obviously
That's all the
most
hype
important
right now.
position in football, and that's what the hype gets at draft day. But be looking for those QBs and where they're going to go. And
Yeah,
the rest of the players, we're just, I mean,
We're
wish
also
them
just
luck.
looking out for who does Jerry decide to
Cowboys.
snag? Because
Interesting mock drafts.
I
I've
mean,
seen.
I've seen us taking Bijan Robinson. I've also seen us taking a tight end. So I'm not sure, but also Jerry's a pretty solid drafter.
This
if
is the
you
one
ask
thing
me.
he's really good at.
So
And
I'm
business.
excited to see who is he putting his stock
We
into.
have the number 26 pick in the first round, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah, so it'll be a
something
while,
like
but
that.
we will be picking at some point Thursday night. Unless we trade that pick away and do something. But he
Maybe we
doesn't
get the
normally.
next Micah Jim. I mean, who knows?
You never
Who
know.
knows?
I'm excited to see it.
So, here's where we like to end our shows on Under Review. I've brought to you an inspirational quote. Some may have more talent than you, but there is no excuse for anyone working harder than you do. And that was John Tavares.
Amen. You got to work hard. You got to work hard
Absolutely.
to get things in life. Just like we do here at Under Review, bringing you an episode every week. So we will see you next week on Under Review.